All right, welcome everyone to this month's board meeting. I will be acting as sitting president for the purpose of this meeting. Board members present, myself, Nick Poloni, Ted Gergen, Steve Brown, Jack Nicolai, and newly elected Nicole Haas. No board members are absent. Administration present. We have Dr. Vicki King. We have Mr. Marquez Guzman, Mrs. Christy Weinstock, Miss Patty Fitzgerald, and Mr. Ryan Sandberg. Visitors present, please make sure you sign into the visitor sign-in sheet that should be right outside that door right there. And then I believe we are doing the Pledge of Allegiance with the scouting troop here. All right.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Mike Serta with the PAC 328. Say your name.
My name is Adam. My name is Quinn. My name is Nolan. My name is Glenn. My name is Nick.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
I'll get a merit badge for that.
What's that?
I'll get a merit badge for
Oh,
that.
yeah. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Or I should say, nay. Okay, motion carries. All right, I'll get used to this. All right, President's report. I will be in charge of doing that this evening. And we have a very special President's report, and I believe, so I'm going to say a little bit of something, and then Vicki and the board have a gift for Miss Dana Powers. So I remember going back 10 years ago, Dana had started about 3 months prior to me starting on the board, and I remember how much was going on at the board at that time. We had a very different district administrator. I think there was a different kind of attitude about this school, and really a pretty monumental task ahead of us, and we just didn't know that yet. Just a few key notes. I mean, we've been through several superintendents, multiple administration changes. We had to deal with the COVID pandemic, board member changes. This is one of the more thankless but absolutely necessary positions in our community. And I think a lot of people have no clue in the amount of work that goes behind the doors and how much time that we as board members do spend away from our family. And Dana being no exclusion from that. One of the things that I wanted to say specifically about Dana and how when she first started on the board to where it is today is, I know it sounds somewhat cliche, but always leave it better than you found it. And I know there was a lot of decision making that we've made over the course of the years. And to be fair, Dana's opinions on a lot of those have changed my mind to have some of the positive changes that we have in the school today. Including, some of the administration and some of the decisions made in the past. So I've always been thankful for her wisdom as it came to that. And I know I'm just one board member of amongst five, but I thank you very much for the time that you've put in, and the conversations and just really the thoughtful leadership that you've put forth. I think that the school is in a much better place because of you. And what everything the board has done in the past, at least in the 10 years I've been doing it. So very much appreciated. I don't know if anyone else has got anything. I know this is President's report, but if any of you guys got something to say, feel free.
When Dana came on, I was president, and she filled a spot that was left open by the exit of a school board member, and she was one of 2 or 3 candidates, and her qualifications and just her general personality made it, without question, that she was the right pick. She did a great job.
Yeah, and I'm Steve Brown. I've been on the board for 7 years. I was on for 2 years prior in '03 and '04. but working on this board, working with Dana, working with all the members of the board, it's a team effort. And your role as president, you not just had the title, but you performed all the duties that we needed. And I just want to thank you so much for everything over the years. Thank you.
Dana took a leap of faith on me. I also fill the role of a vacated seat, like many of us have. And as an educator, I thought I got this. Like, I work in a school, of course, I understand. And then to Nick's point, I think you don't truly realize the intentionality that happens among this group of folks that really pour their heart and soul into this community, and the time that it takes and the investment that comes forward and the mentorship to all of us in different ways and different capacities. I think we truly appreciate it.
So Dana, if you want to step down, and I believe, like I said, Vicki has something to present to you amongst the school and the board.
We have a handful of things. This one is a certificate of commemoration for your 10 years that you have been serving the community of Salem. And then in here, there is a gift. There's a handful of things with a note that explains how they all relate to the things. There's even a layering necklace, because being a board member, there's layers, and people don't understand it, but there's layers of things. So there's a necklace, and it's subtle, so no one will know that it's about the board. But then there's other
Everybody watching and everybody here.
that is now going to be forever. And there is also a gift card to a restaurant, because you've served the community, and we wanted to make sure that we were giving back to the community that you serve. So there's a handful of things. There's one thing in here that is connected to a gift that stays here. It's a partner, and we'll have to pair. And so when you tap on it, or when we tap on it in our office, it will light up yours to let us know that we're thinking of you. And anytime you tap it, you will know that you're thinking about us. And so even though you're not here, you're not gone, and you're important to us. So we appreciate what you've done for our district and the community. Keep honey. While everyone watches.
Thank you, sweetie. Thank you.
Take your prize. Here, Gabe, can you grab these for her? Yeah, right. Here's everything.
Thank you again, Dana. And as far as that goes, I don't have anything other than that. So that concludes the president's report for this evening.
Okay. All right, CISA 2.
And the clerk's report, well,
Sorry?
Yeah. First of all, I would just like to announce officially the tabulation, the summary statement of the School District Board of Canvassers. And we did this, was it the Thursday after the election or the Wednesday? Thursday. Anyway, the final vote tally, Nicole Haas, 1,281 votes total. Dana Powers, 1,180, and there were 16 write-ins. And so we have that, and then also the other item this past week. What day was it again? When I did that?
Monday?
Last Monday.
Last Monday?
Yep, last Monday at 11:30, I believe.
Yep, 11:30.
Right, last Monday, doing the swearing in of Nicole Haas, and that's a requirement by law that it had to be done by the 23rd or 24th. 24th. So, anyway, that's that part of the report. And very quickly, at every board meeting, I give a very brief report. I would always tell Dana, and I'll tell whomever is elected president at this time, that I will go no more than 2 minutes. About CISA 2.
Time it.
CISA 2 is one of the 9 agencies in the state. It's a state agency, and I'm on the Board of Control, which is another board that I serve on, and that board, and I'm also vice chair. And I just wanted to mention one quick thing. CISA 2 now has a licensure academy for school staff. And what that means is that CISA is given the authority from the Department of Public Instruction to offer online courses for certification, early childhood, ESL, special education 4K through 12, math grades 4 through 12, Spanish K through 12, and so these are programs where individuals with the proper qualifications going in can get their certification to become teachers and serve. And these are online programs that are authorized and approved by the Department of Public Instruction in Madison. CISA 2 is the only agency in the state, the only CISA that has this range. And that's really impressive with all the fine work they do. And then finally, they will be adding at some point the administrative licensure. So this would be teachers who are already certified who wish to become school administrators. And this is done under DPI, and it's under a lot of guidance. The initial licensure is $9,500 for the entire degree. The add-on licensure, if someone wants to add on, let's say, math 4 through 12, and they're already a teacher at another level, they pay $5,700. And that's a lot of money, but when you consider how much it costs to go to any of the outstanding public institutions or private institutions in the state, it's 1/5 to 1/10 of what it would cost to go to the other agencies. So anyway, so that's my report for CISA 2. Thank you.
Excellent. I guess this is my part to keep on going through at this point, right? Okay. Is there any correspondence? You went through that? There was no correspondence, correct?
No, I have no other correspondence.
Okay. And then consent agenda items. Where do you go?
All right, let's take a look at the treasurer's report dated March 2023. We'll look at ending balance in each account, general fund cash account with a balance of $500,525.56. Credit cards with an ending balance of $54,981.76. EBC Flex and HRA cash account with an ending balance of $53,050.64. Fund 46, our capital improvement fund, $30,584.79. Petty cash, $100. LGIP.
There is a typo. It's 300.
Oh, yeah. Come on.
The total is still correct, but the subtotal is not.
Oh, okay.
It's at $300.
That's how it reads in the report, right?
Yeah.
Okay. LGIP, I thought it was odd.
Yeah.
We've never used it. LGIP with a balance of $3,577,658.30. Fund 49, WISC, $22,615,311.52 for a grand asset total for March of 2023, $26,832,412.57. If we take a look at the payment of accounts payable bills dated March 1st through March 31st, 2023. This includes checks numbered 71720 through 71783 and 2022-00878 through 222-3000077. The total for checks is $542,909.86. There were some checks within those sequences that had, again, the memo was a little too long, ran onto a different check, caused a little out of sequence order.
Hey, Ted,
Yep.
I think you read the total for the balance sheet accounts, but the total is actually 2.5.
Yeah, I'm all over it today. Oh, yes, I did, sorry. Total for, yes, $2,503,536. Sorry, Diane.
And then monthly revenue and expense report. So our Fund 10 revenue, we've received 60.94% of our total revenue. Compared to last year at this time, it was 63.85%. So it's pretty much on pace. So we've received 65% of our total state aid. We got a big payment in March here. We've received about 70% of our property tax. The remaining property tax will then be received in August, and the remaining state aid gets paid out in June. So we got those payments coming through. Additionally, the difference between last year and this point is on the federal aid side. I haven't done a ESSER claim yet, and I've kind of been waiting to see how this year shakes out and what the budget looks like for next year. But that really is pretty much what accounts for that difference in the percentage at this point. And that's on the revenue side. On the expense side, our expenses are considerably higher than last year, and the big reason for that is we had 3 payrolls in March this year. Last year we had 3 payrolls in April. Just the timing of everything. So obviously salaries and benefits are the largest expense. So that's pushing us over. And then obviously, I keep bringing these up, but the large air handling units that were done in July are still kind of increasing that percentage. And then we have a smaller transfer compared to last year. So the interfund transfer, the 800 level one. So overall, at this point, we've spent a higher percentage of our expenses. So. Any questions on revenue or expense? You know, I know we've talked about it before at board meetings, when they get the state monies, and especially earlier, especially later in the year, like November, and we start operating, we're on the fiscal year as far as our budget, except for the insurance, but that's another issue. But how does that impact everything from your opinion, in your opinion?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, school starts in September, and so we start paying out payroll September 1st. We have summer payrolls over the summer that go from the last year. So even though the cash payments are occurring in the current fiscal year, the actual expenses are booked to the previous fiscal year. That's like an accounting thing. But from a cash perspective, we do hit a low point in cash in November, right around Thanksgiving, usually up until about Christmas time. And that is because we don't start receiving our property taxes till January, and we don't receive most of our state aid until March and June. So that's kind of our low point. We're very close to getting, hopefully, it's been one of the goals to not have to short-term borrow, especially as interest rates have increased. The cost to borrow money goes up. So we're getting very close to hopefully maybe next year we won't have to short-term borrow. We had minimal borrowing this year. I forgot what it was, but it was maybe $1,000 or $2,000 of interest that we paid. So very, very low in terms of the overall expense budget, but it just puts us in a better position if we don't have to short-term borrow. From a debt issuance perspective, they give us a better bond rating based on how much fund balance we have. And so it's always something we're watching, and the goal is to get to that point where we don't have to short-term borrow.
Right, and our bond rating went up also, didn't it?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Item D, minutes of the regular school board meeting. I'll need a motion on that one.
Are we doing them all consenting at the same time?
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
And so we have a resignation for Katie Merrill. We're just going to wish her the very best. And we also have 3 new hires, and so I'd like to walk through with these new hires the process that we went through to go through identifying the candidates that I am recommending for hire tonight. So our Director of Teaching and Learning, in order to, we have selected Patty Fitzgerald. That was a unanimous vote from the committee. So we did a paper screening. It was a blind paper screening for all of the candidates, and What I did is I looked for specific qualities and experience to identify. We had a large pool, both for the principal and the director of teaching and learning. And so I did a blind paper screening to identify and narrow down that pool. After I did that, I did an online virtual interview with 4 candidates. From there, I went down to 2. And then I had two very strong candidates. So the person Patty was going head to head with was someone with strong experience as well, which bodes to the confidence that the committee had in Patty. And so Patty is in the audience today, and she is someone I'm going to be recommending that we hire for the Director of Teaching and Learning to start July 1st. And she's been doing a lot of some of that heavy lifting already this year, in the sense of when I need some support from professional development or identifying contracts and support for our staff. I've been really relying on Patty already for that work. And so that is just a natural move into that role. And I'm also recommending for hire Ben Holzem. He is also here in the audience for our 4K through 8 principal. So to identify Ben for this role, again, we had a lot of really strong candidates that went through the screening process, a blind paper screening process, and narrowed it down to 6 candidates. And we had a broad selection of teachers and staff who were a part of a committee that went through all the candidates, and then we narrowed it down to 3 really strong candidates. And I think what I'm most excited about is the strong work that Ryan has brought us here. So he's going to remain on our team and help continue the amazing work that he's doing. And we couldn't have done what we're about to do without his leadership. And I look forward to him partnering with Ben to do great things. For Ben in the audience, if when people want to get to know him, for him and for Patty was a little bit easier since she's an internal candidate. But when it came to digging through their references, we didn't want to just go with the references that they put on paper. And so we had in education, it's a small world. So we're able to reach out and talk to other people. And some of the things that he was saying in the interview were like, maybe that's too good to be true. And Marquez did some digging. I did some digging. We've all did, and it pretty much sounds like we struck gold there. And I look forward to what he's going to bring to our community and the staff and the community that were in that panel. He was a pick that they're excited to move us forward. So taking what Ryan has been doing for these past 3 years with Patty, more than that, 4 years, and even before that as a teacher, and we're just going to keep propelling forward. So I will pause there if you have any questions that you want to ask of those two, and then I'm going to pass it over to Christy because that's her hire. But does anyone want to ask anything, or do you want to, if it's okay if they say something?
Sure.
Ben, do you want to?
Just want to speak from here.
Sure.
All right, well, first of all, tonight, this is a very amazing opportunity for me, and I just want to be very upfront with all of you that I'm extremely honored by the amount of trust that you've put in me for this position. Education for me is not a career, it's a calling, it's a part of who I am. My daughter can attest to that. How many schools have you come to since you've been born, what do you say?
Six, 5.
It's not uncommon for you to see this girl run around the hallways on Saturday because we come in and we do work, because this is a part of who we are. That's what I want to bring to Salem. The minute I stepped foot in this building, I knew something special here. Talking with Vicki before this meeting, I get even more excited. The thing that really got me was meeting the kids it was a week ago. And just seeing what great people they are, and getting to meet some of their parents and seeing where they're coming from makes me feel a part of a community and family. And that's what I aim to grow here. I want people to know that I'm here for them. My door is open. I am a people person. If you don't come and find me, I probably will come and find you and talk to you, because I want to hear what you have to say. We're in this together. We're a team, and that means everybody. I just want to invite you all right now to come and meet with me and talk to me about education and talk about the direction we want to take together. And the key word here is together, because we are a team. I could go on.
And you don't have time, so sit down, Ben. Thanks, Ben. Time up.
Oh, man.
Really, we've been really trying to keep this confidential, and I was trying to like give like these little sneaky eggshell, whatever they're called, like those eggs when you watch shows. Easter eggs. Easter egg, yeah, thank you. Like he's been interacting with our social media. He's already purchased Salem gear. Like the guy is 110% involved. Like he was banking on a win today, so please don't let me down. And then, do you want a few things about the coordinator? I don't.
Sure. Just very quickly, same thing, we had a great pool of applicants. The screening that I did to bring forward to interviews was that they had to have a lot of experience with IEP writing and experience in coaching other teachers to help support them in that. And then for their interview, they had to take an IEP and give feedback on it to the committee and present a presentation about themselves. And so the committee chose Kate Flanagan. She comes to us from KUSD. She's currently this year written over 100 IEPs, so we're very confident in her skills and super excited to add her to our team.
Excellent.
Okay, I move to approve agenda items A through F as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Congratulations. Public comments, we did not receive any public comments, so we will move on to action items.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to read through this just so we understand the process. You have ballots in front of you. The yellow ballot is the nominating ballot. It's going to, so you're going to nominate, this is all anonymous, so you're going to nominate, we're going to start with president, and then we'll be moving to vice president, treasurer, clerk, and deputy clerk. Once we do the nominating ballot, then Diane will collect them. She'll read off who the nominations are. We'll do a first vote. That will be done in green. And if we need to, we'll do a blue vote if there's any ties. I was asked by people if you're going to have to give a speech, and I said, no, you'll have to do a dance-off. So we're going to start with president nominations.
We have 3 nominations for Ted Gergen and 2 nominations for Nick Maloney.
Okay. So we're going to do a vote. So you're going to use the green paper now. So you're going there, unless someone declines that as those nominations, you're going to go ahead and vote either for Ted or for Nick.
We have 4 votes for Ted Gergen and 1 vote for Nick Maloney.
Okay. All right. So now we are going to do the nomination for vice president. In your yellow ballot. We have 5 nominations for Nick Maloney. Okay. All right, we will now do the voting for vice president.
Did I get it?
Carefully.
Well, we have 4 votes for Nick Colony and 1 for Jack Nicolai.
If elected, I will not run.
Now we're going to do treasurer. Nominations for treasurer.
We have 5 votes for Nicole Haas.
Okay. All right, we are now going to,
Sometimes that happens.
all right, so we are now doing the voting for Nicole Haas for treasurer.
Can I go get one again? Oh, you vote for me just cause trouble.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
We have 5 votes for Nicole Haas.
We are now going to do nominations for clerk.
Yeah. Jeopardy. Or is that for the dance?
Yeah, that would have been the dance off.
We have 5 nominations for Steve Brown.
Cast your vote. Clerk.
Don't do it.
I have 5 votes for Steve Brown.
Thank you.
We do this for deputy too. Okay, deputy clerk now nominations.
Tension is palpitating.
We have 5 nominations for Jack Nicolai.
Okay, please cast your votes.
I have 5 votes for Jack Nicolai.
I would like to thank the Academy. Statue looks just like me.
I move to approve the slate of officers as voted on by the board.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. All right, now we're gonna move some chairs.
Or you can stay where you are, you're just gonna take over at this.
Like right now?
Uh-huh.
Oh, all right.
It's really your choice. You can take over, or you can let Nick finish it up.
Oh, no, it's fine. Hey, that's fantastic. It's all good. It's all good.
There's 42 slides, Nick.
Go get him, Prez.
Okay, so we have our CISA 2 contract that we are looking to have approved for next year. This includes our annual membership. This is to be in the group that's based upon our school and size. That's the price that we pay. And some of these other items where it says TBD, it's based upon the allocation and the needs. So we don't have a necessary dollar amount to provide you, but we want to continue our services with them, so.
I I move to approve the CISA 2 contract for services for the 2023-2024 school year.
So moved. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
All right, 2023-2024 contracted staff member contracts. So annually in April, we bring contract renewals to the school board. On the agenda, the attachments, you'll find the data and then also the template that we use. The template pretty much stays the same year to year. The data changes obviously a little bit with everybody moving up a step that's eligible or moving over a lane if they're eligible. This year we have 80 full-time contracts for professional employees. That's a little higher than last year because we did not have any retirements this year. And at this point, I think we only have 2 resignations, one of which was approved tonight and one of which was approved either last month or the month before. So upon approval tonight, then tomorrow we'll put contracts in everybody's mailboxes, and rather than have you sign 80 different contracts, we'll get your signatures and put those on virtual or digitally. So, are there any questions about the contracts for this year? Oh, we had no non-renewals as well. So,
Motion, please.
I move to approve the contracted staff contracts for the 2023-2024 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
That's a professional one, contracted staff contract.
all right. The next item is the contracted staff retention incentive, and I believe we started this last year. So in order to determine staffing assignments and hiring needs for next school year, it's helpful to know which staff are returning. Last year, I think we got all but 3 contracts returned by the deadline that we set. So we're hoping to get the same thing to give us a head start on potential hiring for next year and assigning, different grade level positions. So we're proposing paying again the $500 retention incentive for contracted staff. In order to be eligible, staff would have to return their 2023-2024 contract to the district office by May 15th of this year. And then the incentive, this is a slight change from last year. We would pay it when staff return in September on the first paycheck. So, any questions on this one?
I've always liked this.
What's that?
Check. I've always liked this. I mean, it's not a big outlay, but it's a good incentive.
It helps prepare, right? Okay, please have a motion.
I move to approve the $500 contracted staff retention incentive as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passed.
All right. Next item, the 2023-2024 notices of assignment for school year hourly wage employees. So the notices of assignment are given out as a legal requirement that assures the employee that we have the intent to employ them following the summer break. And this prevents employees from collecting unemployment during the summer months. So this year we have 37 notices of assignment, 19 part-time and 18 full-time. That is also higher than last year. Mainly due to the addition of, we added lunch and recess monitors this school year, which we didn't have last year. They were kind of a new thing we added back in August of last year. We have a couple additional paraprofessionals. We have 2 safety aides. Last year we held off on bringing. We used to have more in-house building subs during the pandemic. We kind of moved away from that through attrition. And last year we held off on. We still currently have 2 left over from the pandemic, and they're here on alternating days. So those are included now. And then we have an additional part-time health office staff member and an additional office staff member. So the number is, again, a little higher than last year, but I just wanted to explain where those numbers are coming from. Are there any questions on this item?
Motion?
You want to try one over there, Nicole?
Do it, Nicole.
Yeah, sure. I move to approve the notices of assignment for the 2023-2024 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Booyah. Motion carried.
All right, another one for me. GMP, or Guaranteed Maximum Price, for our referendum construction project. So this is something I kind of alluded to at previous board meetings. The referendum passed last April, so over a year ago. In that time, we've selected an architect, a construction management company. We've gone through all the planning. We had the bid day back in early March. And so now, kind of as the dust has settled, the construction management company comes up with this guaranteed maximum price. And this is kind of the maximum amount that we would be liable to pay. Anything above this would require us to be in agreement. But I wanted to bring this to you so that we know where we stand. And then obviously, if there's any changes that net out, we'll handle those on a day-by-day or case-by-case basis. But if there's any change or big swings here, we'd obviously bring this to your attention. And then throughout the next 2 school years, we'd be updating you regularly on the progress. So you can see the guaranteed maximum price includes bid package 1 and bid package, actually started with bid package 0, which is the maintenance building. So that's the actual structure of the building that we're putting out north of in the soccer field over there. Bid package 1 included some earthwork, fabrication, and roof. And then bid package 2 includes a lot of the other general requirements, permits, insurance, contingencies, the construction fee, and the performance and bond payment, and payment bond. And so the GMP, or guaranteed maximum price, comes out to $19,982,186. So then, in addition to that guaranteed maximum price, we have some owner's responsibilities, or they call them soft costs. These are things that are kind of within our control. And these are things that we have to monitor to make sure that they stay on budget. But they include the fee for the architect, the civil engineer, asbestos abatement or hazardous abatement, furniture and equipment, playground equipment, and then any site surveys and geotechnical investigations. And so that bucket of costs or owner responsibilities comes out to a little over almost $2.8 million. So the grand total for the whole project is right underneath that $23 million amount that we had set. And some people may be asking, well, where did the $23 million come from? I thought we passed an $18.3 million referendum. Well, we are factoring in $700,000 of interest earnings. So all this money that we received over the summer, we've invested that. Obviously, the high interest rates were something of a nice surprise in this respect. So we're earning interest on that. And then additionally, we're going to make up the remaining $3.76 million through a Fund 46 long-term capital improvement plan revision. So that will be coming here in the coming months as we nail down the timing of everything. So I just wanted to provide this guaranteed maximum price. Upon your approval, we'll sign it off, get that locked in with the contractor. But are there any questions on this item?
I know we spent a lot of time talking about the contingency.
Yep.
Like, not to make anybody laugh, like, that is a possibility, though, that we could use that in other places if it's not.
Yeah, so that one, even though it falls under the guaranteed maximum price, that is kind of a special line item. If it were not to be touched, it comes back straight to the owner. So hopefully we don't have to touch it, and then we have an additional almost $1 million to spend on furniture equipment. We have some alternate bids that we have on hold in the event that we have additional money left over. But we'll keep an eye on that. And, as we update you, we'll let you know how much of the contingency we've used, if any. So.
Any other questions? The motion?
I move to approve the guaranteed maximum price for the 2022 referendum project as presented.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
And we will be having a groundbreaking ceremony. Obviously, additional information to come. But
Yeah, it's coming out. Is that still a surprise?
oh, sorry.
That's all right. It was a surprise.
Oh,
and
it's gonna be a surprise. It's coming.
we have
You'll get it to save the date for June 2nd.
Coming out on Friday.
Yep.
Oops.
No problem, Marquez. It's fine.
It's okay, we wanted
Smooth, buddy.
Right, but you didn't say what time, so it still can be a surprise.
Better it's at the end of the day. Just gonna go there. It's the last day of school, isn't it?
It is. All right, so we have a special presentation from Mr. Sandberg and the middle school team going to share about our robotics program that we're doing.
They can come down.
Yeah, you can bring them all down.
So obviously, one of the most exciting extracurriculars we have here at Salem is robotics. It's been so popular that Mr. Johnson, who leads our robotics classes, had to do AM and PM classes. So this past year, Vicki and I have been kind of looking at what ways could we potentially make this become an elective. So we're kind of working through that. So hopefully in the next year or two, we're able to do that. But we really wanted to show what they're doing and all the cool things they're doing with Mr. Johnson right now in robotics now. So part of the strategic plan too was obviously student growth and achievement. And so under that goal, there are 3 different strategies. So one of these things is expanding student electives. In this case, it could be robotics and other extracurricular programs. The other is obviously fostering student engagement, and you'll see these kids really, really enjoy that. So that's not a problem with robotics. And then thirdly, just making sure students are receiving relevant, rigorous, and evidence-based instruction. So I'm going to let Mr. Johnson and the kids take it from here on robotics.
Keep going or backward?
Back one slide. There's not a slide there.
This
Oh,
one?
right there.
Okay.
I saw this quote come across one of my screens when I was thinking about this. When Ryan, Mr. Sandberg, talked to me about this, I was just jacked on this. This was great. I'm excited about this. But if you want to change the world, there was a video that went along with it. It basically just said, you don't have to swing for the fence every time. A bunt here, a hit there, you're going to get there, and that's kind of what robotics is. When we started these programs, it started 9 years ago. I was just talking to somebody today about this. 9 years ago, I got a free robot from Gateway in Racine, and they said, "You get a group of kids together, make a robot, come to this competition." And we did, and we got beat bad. We got beat badly. We had 2 months to work on it, and these other schools had years to put together their teams. So the idea of bringing robotics here to Salem and being able to get these, all 3 of these students here, awesome. They just do a fantastic job. And the next slide. One of the kits that we would be looking at, and I think Jack and Violet here are working with these kits. A little bit simpler program, starting off daily lessons, and actually I'm going to just let Violet. I think you were first, right? I think you can go to the next slide. Violet Clark here is going to explain kind of what she is. I've been really interested about this because I need help with this.
Me too. Hello, my name is Violet Clark, and I'm a 6th grade student at Salem Grade School. I am here to talk about how I think Lego robotics should be a curriculum in Salem Grade School. I've been in Mr. Johnson's robotics club one time, and these were a few things that I liked about it. I liked that you got to build your own robot and you got to program it by yourself and add your own spin to it. I also liked how you get to see other students build theirs and build their robots and program their own. I've built a miniature mini golf course out of Legos, where a golf club hits a little ball and tries to hit the target at the end. This is an example of how it works.
I'll just set it on the table.
You see, it hits the ball. It might not go.
Yeah, she needed the full swing.
It might not go in the first time, but when I tested this out at first, I realized that with the percentage that it was at right now and the coding that it gave me, it wouldn't hit it far enough to get to the goal. So I turned up the percentage, and it eventually got on the goal. It didn't this time, but it usually does. Would anybody like to try and test it out?
Marquez does, I know he's a golf fan, I know it.
All right.
So all I'm going to do is just click here and click that yellow button.
Okay.
There you go.
It's like last time. Oh.
Bit of a hook.
Does anybody have any questions?
How long did that take?
It took about 45 minutes to build, pretty quick.
I thought you were gonna say days.
On the
A
fun,
violent, I'm sorry, Jack, go on.
on the fun scale of 1 to 10.
8.5.
I like it.
My question for you was, if this were actually part of the curriculum, how important do you think that would be for you and other students?
Probably a 9, or like pretty important for everybody else.
Pretty
Because
darn important.
yeah, because it uses creativity, and you also get to learn like shapes and what you need, and coding especially, to try to figure out how to make it work.
Does it teach you about power? Like,
Kind of. I mean, there's cables that you have to connect to certain items to make it work, and certain cables.
Thank you, Violet.
Thanks, Violet. That was awesome.
And next up, Jack.
Hello, my name is Jack Knox. I'm a 6th grader here at Salem. Tonight I would like to talk about my thoughts about robotics here at Salem. I've participated in Mr. Johnson's robotics club 2 times. One thing I like about the club is socializing with the rest of the kids that are doing the club as well. Another thing is programming it to do what it's supposed to do. Tonight I used one of the kits to make a Ferris wheel. It took me about 20 minutes to build, and here's what it can do.
You got the right seat.
So you got wheelchair access? That's cool.
Can't play alone.
This we played around with it for quite a bit, thinking it should go slow at first, and then like having these lights be as rainbow. And then my dad thought of having it like that, and I thought it was hilarious, so he did. So I thought it was hilarious, so we did it.
I thought it was hilarious.
The programming didn't take too long to have it happen, and testing it didn't go too shabby as well. Would anyone like to test it?
Up there. Someone go try it? Yeah, there we go.
Gotta show me the one that makes you go fast. though.
And the music.
Yes, here.
Right here.
Ready?
Yeah. And I should have done two notations for that.
So do I press it again and go faster?
No. Or it's,
And all of a sudden just whiplash here soon?
That's the name.
it'll go fast in a second, I'm pretty sure.
Was it on the timer?
Oh, no. Somebody was there we go.
I like that it goes on.
Right. Excellent.
Does anybody have any questions?
What was the hardest part or the most challenging?
Honestly, I think probably programming it maybe. Yeah.
What made you interested in joining Mr. Johnson's robotics club?
I love building Lego, and it when it says I could program it to do something too, I was hooked in it.
Thanks.
The real future is a carny.
And you'll notice, you'll notice that this next robot looks a little differently. This one is a little bit more advanced type of robot. We say, with the robotics clubs that I've had, we've worked with 7th and 8th graders with these. A little bit harder build, a little bit more programming that goes along with it. They love the remote control, but I'll let the expert here explain kind of what's going on.
Hi, my name is Ella, and I'm a 7th grader here at Salem, and I would like to talk to you about robotics. So, in this session of robotics, we worked in teams of 2 to build our robots, and that helped us get it done a lot faster, because this one probably took me about 5 hours. And that helped us get to the driving and programming, which is my favorite part. And so when I was originally building it, I realized I was building the wrong robot. So I had to restart. So that was kind of a pain. But in the end, I turned out with my catapult bot. Would anybody like to give it a try?
Sure.
All right.
It broke into me.
Me too. Unless I can throw something with the catapult.
Because he'll let run into a wall.
Safe driver.
Very cool.
Anybody else want to give it a try?
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the 4 tires are for propulsion, but the 2 sideways tires in the front, do they have any function?
So the 2 sideways tires, the wheels have mini wheels on them, and they're called Omni wheels. So this is how it turns, and so when you're turning, these wheels that are attached to the motors will help you go forwards, but then when you turn, these wheels help it go in that direction.
I mean, these wheels.
Oh, these wheels
Yeah.
are for if I were to have like a ball or like an object of some sort, I would use them to bring it into the grabber, and I could pick up the grabber.
Ah, that's intelligent.
I have a question for you, Ryan.
Yeah.
In order to offer this as a class, as a course, how many students would have to
Yeah,
be?
so me and Mr. Johnson have been kind of actually looking at that. And so I think the way to start it would be in middle school, we could offer it as a semester class. So it'd be 30 students like in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and then another 30 in the second semester. So it'd be a total of 60 students per grade level. That also allows kids, if they still want to participate in band, art, and things like that, but it would be an option. And I think me and Mr. Johnson were also talking to kind of bring it even lower. Like we could go like 4th and 5th grade and kind of be some of those more basic ones that the other kids did. And that would be like a quarter. So they would have a quarter of robotics in 4th grade. So each homeroom teacher could have a quarter of robotics. So that's kind of our initial thought with it.
I'm absolutely in favor of doing that.
Great.
As one board member. I don't speak for the board, but I think that'd be great at all the levels.
Yeah.
Really.
Like I said, Mr. Johnson and obviously the team did a great job obviously today. So
It's all them. They're amazing. We saw some of those little Mandalorian robots and have them going around the hallway.
By the way, Brian, in the military, you were in the Air Force, right? Our new principal. Did you use robots for anything? I don't know if you were ever in the wars. I was in the military, but any robots whatsoever?
They're using it more and more.
Oh yeah, I know.
I was more just the guy turning bolts and actually building and fixing things. But I'll tell you, it's becoming more and more technical. And whether it's in the military or whether it's in our schools, to really prepare kids for the world outside of school, this is an essential task. My daughter and I were just talking. She's actually in green architecture class for next year in her district. I'm just sitting here and super excited to hear about some of these developments because I think Violet, by the way, amazing job. Kids, amazing job. I mean, did you see how excited these kids were?
Yeah.
That's what we need to capture.
Right, and that's what education's all about.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Nice job, Jeff.
So I am a school social worker here at Salem, Erin Lockoff. Dr. King invited me to speak with you guys about how Salem implements the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act. So the McKinney-Vento law is all about educational stability for kids who have a lot of housing instability. So I'm going to just go over a little bit about the act and everything it covers, the rights of these students, some of our current data, supports that are available to families, what I typically refer them to, and some things that are going really well. So like I said, the primary goal is that educational stability, and what it kind of means for people who are eligible. There's 5 core components. So that first thing is identification. So essentially, I need to be identifying these families. A lot of my work is contacting them, connecting them to resources, and making sure that I'm aware of their needs. The other part of that identification is outreach and ongoing staff training. There's a lot of staff members here. They've all heard me talk about this about 100 times, so they know all these things too. But that outreach is really important. So the more people who know about the law and what the rights are for these children, the more kids that will identify and support. Once students are identified, there must be no barriers for academic success and no barriers for school enrollment. So I essentially work as a case manager for all of these students, and I work with their teachers and ensure that they're doing well academically, that they're attending, that they're able to come to school, and that there's not really any barriers. For school enrollment, as you can imagine, if someone is experiencing a lot of housing instability, there can be long periods of absences or a lot of barriers in them getting to school. So if they do end up changing schools and things are kind of uncertain, if they're trying to enroll in a new school, there should be no barriers to that. So we immediately enroll them, even if they don't have all the necessary paperwork that's typically needed at enrollment. And then I work with those families to make sure we have that paperwork. School stability is kind of the biggest part of this law. So students who are experiencing housing instability have the right to attend their original school where they were attending before they became homeless, or their school of residence where they're currently residing. So that, again, translates to a lot of my work with these families and discussions and conversations about which school would be in their best interest to attend. And that leads to that last one. The law is very particular that decisions need to be made on the best interest of that particular student and that particular family. We kind of can't set hard and fast rules about like the cost of transportation and supporting those kids getting to school and things like that. It has to be based on what's in the best interest of that kid. So we do have really robust, strong board policy protecting students experiencing homelessness. So I've been really impressed by that. So we do have policy that says that they're protected from discrimination based on their homeless status. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. So over the last few years, I started here in 2017, the 17-18 school year. The 18-19 school year was the year that I became the homeless liaison. And we only have data in WISE- dated back to the 18-19 school year, so I couldn't really see a whole lot from before that point. But as you can see, our numbers have fluctuated quite a bit. When I first started, we were at 11 kids. And I think just anecdotally, I believe we were at 0 whenever I came here, and that's just not true. There's homelessness everywhere. And then I will just say the traditional kind of perception of what it means to be homeless is a very narrow scope. Typically, we think of it as people who are living in public spaces, but the law actually covers a much wider variety of situations. And so it really focuses on having permanent housing. And permanent housing is that it's fixed, regular, and adequate. And so if it meets those 3 pieces, then it's considered to be permanent. And if it doesn't, then they would likely meet criteria for homelessness. And so we do have quite a few students that do experience this. As you can see, in the 2020-2021 school year, it dropped quite a bit, and that was obviously during COVID. This was a national thing. Everybody's numbers dropped quite a bit. That's not because there were fewer people experiencing homelessness. It's because a lot of these kids moved. There's typically a lot of transients with these families, moving a lot, needing to kind of jump around, and a lot of school districts lost track of a lot of their students. So this year, as you can see, 22-23, we are really just, the number is just growing and growing. Last week identified 4 more. So it's definitely a need that is increasing in all communities. I will say the rent crisis is not helping anything. It's kind of the primary difficulty right now for a lot of families. There's not a lot of housing available at various income brackets. There's typically only kind of like luxury level apartments available, and that just doesn't really meet the needs of our community a lot of the time. So I have been seeing a lot of increase there. So typical services access, we have a lot of really good resources in our community. The Sharing Center is just the absolute best. They really started more as a food pantry, but they've expanded significantly. They support a lot of our families, not just our ones experiencing homelessness, but with employment help, searching for housing. They've been able to secure apartments for a good handful of my families, which has been really exciting. Food, clothing, holiday help, all of that. There are good mental health resources that we've been able to, or that I've been able to refer families to. There's a community clinic in Silver Lake, and they can provide affordable care for these families. And then here at school, we always offer school supplies, gym shoes, coats, boots, kind of anything that they need. So some really good celebrations. This year we were randomly selected to be audited by DPI for our implementation of McKinney-Vento. So we are fully compliant. There were no concerns from them. They will provide me with a full report before the end of the school year, but I haven't gotten that back yet. So that was really exciting. Our students experiencing homelessness, we can kind of compare their attendance data to our permanently housed students, and they really do really have great attendance rates. And so I was excited about that. I think that is a testament to my work and making sure that they are here and that they have good transportation and that there's not a lot of barriers for them getting to school. We have a really good process, and I have a really good team that I work with. This is definitely not a one-man show. Diane is amazing. She helps me with everything. Marquez is amazing, helps me with everything. I've had nothing but tremendous support from my principals, the things that I've asked from them, you guys. And it's just been really good to work with that team. And so that's really great. Like I said, I started in the 17-18 school year, and there has been a lot more outreach and visibility on my part, I think. Kind of when I started, I think families were very wary to speak with me, but I think as I've established myself a little bit more as, a school social worker and how that's different from maybe like child protective services and things like that, there's been more conversations and better relationships with families, and so I think that's really good. And then there's just really good community collaboration. I recently started meeting on a quarterly basis with the other homeless liaisons in Kenosha County. So every school district is required to have one. And so I have really good communication with those in Kenosha County, as well as the Sharing Center. We're meeting on a regular basis to talk about resources and the needs of these families. So lots of really good things happening. So,
I have a quick question for you. What more can we be doing as a district, and certainly speaking to the board here, to make everything that you're doing already even better?
That's such an exciting question. I really think at this point, and I've had these conversations with a lot of people already, I think we're in a really good place with being really compliant, and I'm excited to start moving into how we can be really innovative with these students. And so we've been talking about things like mentoring or tutoring and trying to add some more of those services that would be available really for all students, but for these students in particular. But I've had nothing but support. There's really been no red tape, and not everybody can say that. And so I've really appreciated the support I've gotten so far. So.
And maybe we can even look at some outside funding, whether it's through DPI, CISA, or foundations, right?
Yeah, there can be grants available and things like that, so it's always worth looking into. And again, we're excited for kind of those next steps. So it took a little while to get fully compliant, and now we're ready for some expanding, so.
Well, the Sharing Center is a really great organization.
Fantastic.
They do a lot of good.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Karen, how do most of these students show up on your radar? Like, you know, there's the balance of self-reporting, right? And that seeking assistance, and sometimes that's like challenging. And then you probably hear from our great faculty and staff, right? Like, what does that process look like?
So in the last, I think, 3 or 4 years, we added a self-reporting component to our enrollment process. We didn't have that before, and so now there is a form included in there about like a residency questionnaire, and I got a lot out of that, and so I was really excited about that. We also, the law requires that I train all staff every single year on McKinney-Vento, and they're like, Erin, you told us this last year. I'm like, I know, I have to tell you every year. So that's been really good. I've definitely got a lot of reports that way. And then I think, you know, it's really just making sure that we're hearing the right things from students, and when we hear things that we're following up on them, and the staff has done a really good job at that. So, yeah.
And I'll say one of the things that, like, I'll brag on you a minute. Like when she was going over the audit with me, she shared how she started to identify those numbers in the beginning, because the attendance looks great now, but initially those were some of the flags that she would spot. So just sitting in meetings where you're talking about student support, like if there's a pattern of absenteeism, that goes off in her head, like, oh, I need to pay attention. So she does some of her little background recon work. So I want to brag on you again, like you're also an investigator finding them too.
What are things the community can do to support? Or areas or donations or volunteering anywhere?
I think that's connected to so many other things too. Like I think the Sharing Center is typically my first kind of go-to, because they have a really good grasp on what services are available at the state level and things like that. So I guess just to supporting them, honestly, they're absolutely fantastic, and they do a lot of this work. They're always my first phone call. And 90% of the time, any of the families that I'm working with have already had very established relationships with the Sharing Center, and I'm always impressed by that. So I don't know, I would just always and forever say just support them. Great. Yeah. So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, so the last two items that we have are merely just us providing you information. There will be no decisions or action items coming from them. I'll provide more information and like these data back in my weekly updates for you. We'll have a finance committee meeting between now and the next board meeting, so we can dig even deeper into these conversations. Because some of these discussions that we're having today, we are going to need to make some decisions, whether we stay how we are exactly, or we make some adjustments, and we'll do those in the May and June meetings. But we wanted to provide you with an opportunity to think through some of these big ticket items as they pertain really tightly to our strategic plan. So
I also don't have any robots, but so Vicki mentioned the strategic plan. So one aspect of the strategic plan is making sure we're in a position to attract and retain high quality staff. And so one topic that's come up since I've started here is the offering our school year full-time employees the same health insurance benefits or increased health insurance benefits compared to what we currently offer. So we kind of break employees down into a couple different categories. We have administrators, then we have our contracted staff, which we approved contracts earlier today. And then we have our hourly staff. And within those hourly staff, we have full year staff. So our custodians work the whole year over the summer. Some of our administrative assistants work, the full year. And then we also have school year full-time staff. And so these are like our paras, our library aides, our safety aides. And so for the vast majority of our staff that are benefit eligible, in order to be benefit eligible, you have to work at least 30 hours or be scheduled to work at least 30 hours. We pay 90% of their health insurance premium, and then they have to pay the remaining 10%. And so that's for the majority of staff. But for our school year full-time staff, we only offer them the 90% benefit coverage if they choose the single health insurance option. If they choose the employee plus one or the family health insurance option, those are those two on the first chunk up there, those two orange lines going across the board. They have to pay 55%, and the district pays 45%. And so that 55% is a significant amount. So if you're choosing the family health insurance and you're a school year full-time employee, you have to pay almost $16,000 for the family coverage, compared to $2,900 if you were, a contracted staff, a full year staff. So this has come up quite a bit. And I just wanted to, the bottom table shows the different groups, employee groups, and then the amount that we spend on the different options for health insurance. So we have single coverage, employee plus one, family coverage, and then we do offer a health insurance waiver, cash in lieu. And so you can see the different breakdowns there on the different types and then by category. And you can notice in total, we spend almost $1.5 million on these benefits, right? So it's a huge chunk of the budget. So this is just kind of laying it out there. I always struggle with providing enough information. So here is all the math, so you can go back and look at it if you'd like. But if we go to the next slide, we did have a personnel committee meeting last month on March 21st. This was the big topic of that committee meeting, or I think the only item on the agenda.
Yeah.
And so I presented a couple different options. I got some feedback, and now I've kind of updated the information to provide a kind of different view. And so one thing I looked at was what are our employees currently choosing, right? So our administrators, our contracted staff, and our full year full-time, how do they because they have the 90% coverage no matter what they choose, what percentage of our staff are choosing single, employee plus one, family, or the waiver? And so you can see in that top table, 23% choose single, 12% choose employee plus one, 28% choose family, 36% choose the waiver. So to me, that's kind of when you have the 90% coverage, regardless of your choice, that is a good representative sample of what people choose. And then you can see our school year on the next table down below, our school year full-time staff, nobody chooses employee plus one, nobody chooses family because the cost is very high. 6 of our 15 staff members choose single, 9 choose the waiver. And then I did put the 5 new, because we have 5 new staff for next year that we approved. So this is updated from our personnel committee, because before we had 15 eligible staff, now we have 20 for next year. So then I kind of tried to estimate if we did offer the 90% health insurance coverage, what impact would that have on the budget? What would that be in terms of a cost increase? So I came up with a kind of a low number, a mid number, and a high number. So you can see the 3 different options there. The low is in purple, yellow is mid, and the red is high. So the low is assuming that all the new staff members take the cash in lieu waiver and everybody else sticks with what they're doing. That's a $25,000 impact on the budget. The mid estimate assumes that, then I'll jump to high. High assumes that the school year full-time staff are going to choose kind of at the same percentages as all the staff that currently have the 90% coverage available to them. And so that comes out to $176,000 of an increased cost. So I'm taking the total cost and then subtracting what we currently pay to determine what the increase is. And then the mid is kind of a combination of those two. And as you can see, it's about $103,000 impact on the budget. So I'm laying this out here. It's just information. Obviously, I'll ask for some questions, and then you guys can have a discussion. And then, as Vicki mentioned, we will go to a finance committee meeting next month. I think the goal would eventually be to take this to a full board meeting for a vote. But,
I have a question.
Yeah.
If we were to ever move from the calendar year, and in case people are not aware, I mean, I'm sure you are, that our insurance is on the calendar year, not on the fiscal year. Our budget is on the fiscal year. And I'm a very strong believer that we need to really look at moving our health insurance to the fiscal year to our regular budget. What impact, if any, would that have if we moved from calendar to fiscal?
Yeah, we are.
So we are actually moving it so we're moving it to a September 1st start date. It used to be January 1st.
Right.
So this upcoming September, we're on a whole new plan year. So right now we're in the middle of a short plan year. We could have done it July 1st. The issue is a lot of our staff aren't here in the building during the summer, so open enrollment becomes an issue. So July 1st gets pretty close to that September 1st date. But the big thing is that it gives us a sense of what is our health insurance renewal going to be, because you can see we spend $1.5 million. If we don't know what the renewal is going to be, it's hard to budget, and that kind of puts us in a pickle. So by moving it earlier, we'll actually get our health insurance renewal here in 2 weeks. So we'll know as we budget for next year where we stand on health insurance, and we'll be able to relay that information to employees so that they can make the best choice available to them. So we are moving to that. Starting September 1st of this year. And it's kind of been a big process with the staff, and obviously we'll have some additional reminders here in the coming months as we end out our short year.
2 questions. First, is our current health insurance plan with Humana? Okay, so that's going to make the renewal interesting probably for this upcoming renewal. Secondly, for the finance committee meeting, can we get some more specifics on the waiver program as it currently sits right now and the proposed ideas that we had spoke about in the past, so we can discuss how that applies to this as well? I'm going to guess, based on being in this industry, the renewal it's going to be higher probably. I'm going to guess, unless the indication has not been that so far, which would be great.
So far our with the loss ratio is actually coming in under what they had projected. I mean, this is what they've been telling me.
So under, well, it'd be under. Okay.
Yeah, but it's under. It's projected to actually be less than 100%. So I'm hoping for a good one, but obviously, I've heard stories.
Just part of the reason, a ton of people are with Humana because of the renewals they offered, and then they got out of the marketplace, so that changed a lot of stuff. So okay. All right.
So in the next 2 weeks, I'll
because I want to put the waiver, because that waiver thought process is going to affect these. I mean, the number 35 that's up there on the top end, that could affect that certainly.
And we have shifted a portion of the cash in lieu to the Viva, as we've kind of discussed. That helps us because we don't have to pay FICA on that, and it helps the employees because they don't have to pay income tax or FICA on that as well. Okay.
Sure. There's other ideas. Yeah, there's a ton of ideas that are happening in the industry right now with some of this stuff too.
How many employees? And I know this came up a little bit in the personnel committee. Like, as the strategic plan talks about retaining and attracting great employees, how many people do you think you've lost or not been able to hire because of that? Because of that $9,000 or $16,000 out of pocket.
So this is where it's been hurting, I know, Christie's department from student services for hiring paras. I know for sure 2, I don't know if it's more than 2, but right out of they were great candidates, strong candidates, and it was a non-starter.
They saw that.
Yeah. So that was, so I don't know what, one of the things we've been talking through, like Marquez and I've been talking, like even, we're still, I don't predict 100% of our paras are gonna jump on, because we know some of them are like their partners, or they're on their insurance and they might be doing the waiver that we were talking about. So I don't know if that number is accurate or if it's a high number, but he was being conservative, which he needs to be, because I'd rather err on the side of giving you numbers that are too high versus too low.
Yeah, and in the context of the next item and the whole budget discussion, it's like we have a lot of increased costs or potential increased costs and decisions that have to be made about what are we going to do. And obviously our resources are limited, and depending on what the state budget turns out, they might be more limited than we think. But I think the whole point is, all these things come with a cost, and then we got to prioritize. And
did M3 do a census this year then too, to kind of grasp where the district is, particularly in demographics and all this kind of stuff? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's a whole other discussion. Is there
right? Because I mean, it affects a lot of different. Okay, I just want to have a good idea on that. So
So what else can we bring to that? Maybe you can tell. Like, what else do you want us to have for that finance meeting that will help? Certainly. And when we're in even the next conversation, if you're like, let's go back and add this to. It's not a one and done, because I want to make sure for that finance committee that because these are conversations that it's gonna be costly at some point, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are just, the discussions are cost-saving mechanisms that other businesses are using in this particular situation that may or may not have any impact on the individual taking the insurance, right? So, I mean, I'm not licensed in health and, you know, all that stuff, but just being with colleagues of people who do this every day, in discussion with them, you know, I have a few ideas, and I'm sure M3 probably knows all these too, considering the scope of what they do as well. But, so,
Any additional
I think
questions?
comparisons, right, of other surrounding districts, like who would be theoretically stealing our people if,
Yeah.
right? Or where would people be applying instead of us?
And one of the things we did find, and we can bring this up then too, but just for discussion's sake, there are districts that don't offer it at all because they're keeping their numbers below. So they're just keeping them at under that 30 hours, so you don't have to offer it. And so I know that there are some nearby that's in the conversation I've had with other superintendents. I mean, the gamut was everywhere as everyone's trying to figure out how to poach each other's people.
they're changing some of that law too, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, but in any case.
All right, well,
Okay.
go to the next one.
Okay, so this conversation is kind of there was a bit of a genesis that popped out of the conversation last board meeting when we wanted to talk about drop off and pickup. But then also busing has just been a conversation piece that it has not stopped as being one of the top concerns in my stay interviews with families and then the stay interviews with kids. And there is not a week that's gone by that I myself haven't received at least 3 to 5 emails from parents concerned about busing. I can only imagine the number that our principals are getting. I know Dousman is, they have concerns. So I wanted to bring up another, at this point I've told the community that we're gonna have a conversation about some of the things that are happening on buses. It may alleviate some of the drop off and pickup. It may not. It could alleviate some of the, just philosophically, I'm not making a recommendation. I'm just gonna share I do wrestle as a superintendent knowing that I've got a 4-year-old on a bus with a kid who's 13. A 13-year-old, I'll be honest, they're doing developmentally appropriate things. We may not like it, but that's what 13-year-olds are talking about, what 13-year-olds are talking about next. But it's hard to reconcile that with a parent of a 4-year-old hearing those kinds of conversations. So, and I know the 4-year-old parent wants me to punish a 13-year-old for acting like a 13-year-old, and I can only do so much. So I think there's from the psychological safety of for the kids and for parents who are the ridership. We give you our numbers. I wonder if ridership would change if more parents said, okay, the buses are safer, I can put my kid on a bus. Or not, I don't know, but this is just another discussion. And Marquez, I'll let you kind of jump in on.
Sure. I do want to mention that based on the conversation we had last month at last month's board meeting, we did change the bus dismissal process. So that I think we've noticed a positive impact on that, on the traffic drop off. But going back to this conversation, you can see our ridership. We're trying to project how many riders we're going to have next year. So we look at how many riders we currently have in kindergarten or 4K through 3rd grade. We move all of them up, and then we estimate how many riders do we typically have in 4K to predict how many 4K through 4th graders we're going to have. And then we take the riders in 4th grade through 7th grade and bump them up to 5th through 8th to determine how many riders we would expect for next year. So as you can see, we're expecting 715 riders, and that ridership obviously goes up and down depending on weather, days of the week, but that's like the max number of people that would be riding. So our total enrollment for next year is projected to be 1,007. So it's about 71% of our students take the bus at least one time, but obviously probably on an average day is maybe closer to 65% just based on attendance, weather, days of the week, things like that. So we did ask Dousman to come up with some additional options for us for busing. One thing that we've already done, and that's kind of option one, what we've implemented seating charts, which obviously sometimes are hard to implement when you have a sub driver Sometimes the kids don't sit in their assigned seat, but that's one thing we've done. And then we've also increased the consequences for, misbehavior at certain actions that students have on the bus, have certain consequences where they lose their bus privileges. And then in this bottom table here, I have kind of some important information. So the first, obviously, the number, the option, and then the average bus number of students on the bus. So currently 4K through 8th grade are all on the bus. Average bus has about 45 students on the route. Then later on, I have this bell adjustment cost, and then whether or not that cost is ongoing. And then the breakdown of further options break down into 4K through 4th and 5th through 8th. So option 1 is kind of as we're currently doing, implementing the seating charts and additional consequences. Option 2 is adding cameras and audio. So these would be 4 different cameras placed throughout the bus that would give you very high resolution image or recording and sound. And so that doesn't change the actual route or the number of students on the bus, but it does give the principals and the assistant principals and administration the chance to identify some of the students that may be misbehaving. That would come at a one-time cost of $42,858 to install all the camera and audio equipment on all 16 of our buses.
Would that be property of Salem that is?
It's property of Salem installed on Dossman. So if we change bus routes, we could request that.
Or other schools that are using, would they be privy to that equipment, or is that something we could talk to other school
We
districts
could
to see?
talk to other school districts about splitting the cost, but obviously during their routes, they're not, I mean, they wouldn't have access to the video. unless-
That'd be, right, that I would assume.
Right, and they don't have the numbers that we do.
Correct. So that's option 2 listed here. Option 3 is grade segregated buses. So this would be kind of splitting, we'd have 8 buses that pick up 4K through 4th grade and 8 buses that pick up 5th through 8th grade. We have more riders in 4K through 4th than we do 5th through 8th. So those bus routes would have a slightly larger average ridership. That does not require any cost. That's just something that the bus company would do, changing the routes. It might slightly increase the route time by a minute or two, but in general, there would be really no change in terms of time or money. And then the last option is what they call second tier or an additional route. So we would pick up our 5th. This is just not how it's going to be, but the way they would lay it out is they would pick up the 5th through 8th graders first, drop them off at school, and then go back and pick up the 4K through 4th grade separately. So this would involve changing our bell schedule because we'd have students being dropped off at different times, about 30 to 40 minutes apart. And then this would have an additional cost because now the bus company is paying these drivers to drive an additional hour a day.
This past week, I think we're all aware of the construction at Highway 83 and 50.
Yeah.
This past week at 2:30 to 4 o'clock, the traffic was backed up from going north. It was backed up from 83 and 50 to almost to the Citgo station and Siebers because of that construction. What impact is that having? I know we talked about it before, and I think it's incredible. I mean, it's horrible.
Yeah.
And this is gonna last well past the summer into the fall, and they're also talking about reconstructing, doing new construction on Highway 83.
And that it's in it's going to be the weekly update, like a link to where you can see all those updates and for the families as well, because it is going to, that in itself is going to put kids on buses longer because we're going to have to reroute them.
Right, and by the way, of all that traffic, I counted 13 school buses, and those were a combination of our buses and Central.
So when I think about that, when I think about kids being on the bus that long with that worries me.
Sure.
I don't love it. It's hard for me to respond. Right before the meeting, I had to email to a parent. It's hard for me to tell a mom, I'm sorry that's your child's experience and they learn that word. I can't tell.
Right, and that's got to increase the potential.
For a longer amount of time that they'll be on the bus
Right,
experience.
issues on the bus.
Yeah.
Can I ask a
question. How much of the issues are related to like bullying issues versus age issues, like 4-year-olds being with 8th graders?
So I wouldn't say bullying. I would say I would say there's roughhousing. Yeah, like I would say that I think it's a both and. I think the unexpected behaviors where you're being more physical. I mean, I've seen just that increase just in general when you talk to bus drivers anywhere in any district, they don't love their job anymore. Not they really ever loved it, but kids are a little bit more physical on buses.
Have we ever done like a floating kind of supervisor or something?
And we've tried,
Patty, Ryan.
yeah. We've sent people on the buses. We asked for volunteers. We told people we'd pay them. That's not, so just like it's hard for kids, I wouldn't want to be a bus driver either. Right. Like that's in the morning perhaps because more of those older kids are sleepy.
Right.
Do you think the students would respond knowing that they're being watched and listened to while on the bus with the camera and audio systems? Or do you think it would be something where they would eventually it's a day that ends in a Y to them?
I feel like if the camera and audio, like they're very reactive. Like that's like a reaction,
Yeah,
right?
I feel like that's not a prevention.
It's like evidence.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like if
However,
cameras.
if you knew that it's a deterrent, I would say, right? First it would be reactionary, and then furthermore would be a deterrent after you saw the reaction, right? Because then there definitively would have something to talk about, right?
Well,
and then
there were obvious consequences. I mean, if the buses had the cameras on them and the kids found out, if you're caught on camera and you're making a mistake, there are going to be consequences.
That still doesn't address like the developmental
Like a prevention.
challenge, right, of an 8th grader with a 4K kid.
And what about siblings? So would the rule be they have to split up? Or are parents going to be like, well, I want my 6th grader with my 4K?
That would be something we need to decide.
Siblings sit together, from what I understood. Like my sons sit together, I know.
Oh, on the current, how it is currently?
Yeah.
So I've been in a district and I've worked with the cameras so we have cameras now on buses. They're grainy and sometimes they're not working. So that's where we put on an option, like we could fix that. So I've had them where they're great cameras and great audio. It doesn't make the behavior go away. I can just now see it and then I can consequence the behavior. I don't know that I had a reduction except that I had the ammo I needed to say, you're not going on the bus for the rest of the semester. And that's where it becomes the administration and having the support of the board saying the ridership is a privilege, it's not a right, because and when then I'll run into like talking to Christy, there are students that have protections where they're gonna be able to ride the bus. So it's tricky. But the audio, if we had something, would be better than what we have now, which is,
We have a single camera that doesn't have sound,
Yeah.
and you can hardly see.
Yeah.
And from a staffing point, we cannot staff these buses with people to watch this activity either, right? And then,
yeah, not only we don't, that would be, that's gonna be another option, it's gonna be another cost, but I don't even have the people willing to do that, yeah.
And I'd be interested, I'm gonna assume we're not segregated as the district that's having these similar issues.
Oh,
I
no.
bet every single district
No.
in the country's having
Oh,
these
100%.
So-
We had bricks being thrown and like there were TikToks about that stuff. So it's not, I know people think like it's so bad. It's not just us, it's everywhere.
So, I mean, truthfully, the only options are we could implement something from this chart, or if parents had a true fear of their kids riding on the bus, they simply could just do a drop-off schedule with them, do a standard drop-off and not use the bus system at all. I mean, those are the solutions. Like, that's all we have, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there isn't anything else we can necessarily do.
Do we apply the Falcon feathers to bus behavior?
We haven't. We've talked to the buses to try to get them to, that is something they're interested to go back to doing, some type of PBIS incentive for the buses.
I'd like to follow up on something Nicole brought up about siblings. Now, if we did the grade segregated buses, there would obviously be some siblings being broken up there. Do you think there would be any problem with some of the families who wouldn't want their siblings to be broken up, who wanted them all to ride together?
Yeah, and I think that that's where we're gonna have to set the standard. If we choose like a 3 or a 4, that might be where you want to put like out to the community, like vote, like what would you prefer? We'd have to figure out how to make it a balanced, like people to vote, but that, I would rather say because that would be easy to say, oh, well, I'm going home with Marquez today, so I need to be on his, like, no, you're gonna go on this bus, this is the bus you're on, so
Sorry,
go ahead, nope.
How many buses are in motion any given day?
16.
16? Of all those buses, are they equally having the same amount of problems, or would you say like 3 or 4 buses are really the big culprits and the rest of them are not too bad? Are we making change based on a very...
So I think there's 2 parts. I think there are some routes that are more, they have more of that physicality, but that doesn't mean I'm not getting calls and concerns about their like the quiet things that are happening that kids are learning because kids are just talking. So, or they're swearing. And I get that, you know, a 4th grader or even a 3rd, they could still say the same, but it feels very different to parents when it's their 4 or 5-year-old hearing it from an 11 or a 12-year-old.
Would this be a decision you obviously want to figure out before next year, but can you, before this year ends, try to reintroduce the Falcon Feathers and some sort of PBIS with the buses just to see if there's an impact?
So we did bring that up, and we have there's incentives that we've just shared out with teams for to finish up the year, just because the end of the year is rough in general. But I would say, I can ask them. I don't think Dousman is open to trying new things. I don't. It's tricky. I'm trying to be optimistic, but being in middle school, the bulk of my career, middle school, high school, I just I'm cynical at this time of the year anyway, and you're going to give me a token for being not dropping an F-bomb on a bus with a 4-year-old? Pass. So I don't know.
I don't remember the number, the difference, and I don't even remember if we had other bids. If Dousman was our only company that bid. Okay, never mind then. Because I was wondering if is 42,000
I did get multiple. I got a separate quote outside of what Dousman told me, and it was the exact. It was within a couple $100.
No, I just didn't know if First Student's bid was $42,000 higher than Dousman, and we were but they already had that stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, and the other thing to think on, because I know we had talked at one point, what if we had our own fleet one? I do know that after talking with John, that's something that they're for a long-term plan. They're just investigating things for the high school. So they're trying to think through different things with busing as well. So I don't know if this is a long-term or a temporary solution. And certainly not an item to think through or finish and discuss now, or to discuss now, not decide now. But I just wanted to put this on there for the finance, because it's
a big issue.
Yeah.
And it's constantly in flow, and some of it is just kids being emotional.
Yeah.
You know, it's...
Perhaps we start trying some of the easier things. Obviously, the school year was 30 days left or whatever it is, right? And then moving into the following year, we come up with a quarter. This just has to be an ongoing discussion to make sure that we're focusing in on any and all available options.
Yeah.
And maybe on a quarterly basis, we start monitoring the activities on specific buses, have some data, and then we can sit down and talk about, hey, well, maybe we alter routes, maybe do certain different things, maybe we know 3 or 4 buses that are extremely difficult, and then we staff those 4 buses, right? I think we work out as best we can for the rest of the year. Obviously with this, I mean, my kids ride the bus too, so like, this is an issue, right? So like, I get this whole thing, I totally get this, it's not, but, you know, and then we really come into the following year with an idea about how we're gonna get data, keep it on a quarterly basis where we're discussing this, and then any other involvement from any community member or any teacher or anyone who has an idea, we just take that and we really see if it's applicable and then run with it.
Yeah.
Because I think this is just something that we all have to come together and try to make a solution to. This is not a policy thing, this is not just a camera or whatever thing, this is gonna be kind of everyone, including, you know, and then everyone being patient with this, right? I understand, you know, I've had some of those same concerns. I mean, there's a year where I took my kids off the bus and all together for a whole year, right? But that was a solution, right? So I just think everyone has to keep kind of cool and collective heads and work together and trying to find a solution rather than pointing fingers about how we may or may not be doing enough to do this. I think this is a huge concern and we want to continue moving forward with it. And we'll do the best we can. That's, I think, the only thing we can say about this, right?
By the way, and this is not meant to be a joke whatsoever, but in the state legislature, there's a bill that's pending that will allow school board members to volunteer to be bus drivers if they meet the qualifications. And when I read that, it was like, I mean, first that's a crazy idea, but seriously,
I don't know an insurance company in the world.
Well, I know, but it's
Can we be armed?
I would think about our insurance policies, but I just thought that was very strange.
Yeah, I saw it too.
I'm sorry, and I hope that does not pass.
I worked as a bus driver.
I didn't know how it
I
didn't
didn't
get
make
to
enough
option
working as a
5.
bus
That's
driver.
supposed
Why
to
would
be
I
option
volunteer?
5.
5 more bus rides.
Salem board.
Anyway,
Board
I
is,
just had to bring
no,
that up.
yeah,
I'm
that's
a
good.
relief, thank you.
Okay, last quick little item before we wrap it up. Next month, we'll do committee membership, so you need to let Ted know your interest in the various committees. So we have the buildings and grounds, aligned to the strategic, I just tie them to specific where the work is, and then we have our personnel negotiations, education and technology review, policy and community relations, and finance. And then as something that we will bring up when we have a policy committee meeting at some point, we have on-committee membership. Community members are able to participate in any of them minus the personnel negotiations. We may want to look at, right now it's even numbered years, and because we don't have any community members that are on committees, it may just be that we do it yearly, so it's not so confusing for people. So if we have community members, I'll add that to my focus to make sure if they want to participate in a committee, they need to let the board president know by May 17th.
Are we merging ed review and technology?
Well, technology was all by itself and it was never we didn't meet. But in our strategic plan, there's quite a bit of information where that falls in. So
It makes sense.
Yeah, so.
Just a question.
Yeah. Okay, so that will be for next month. And then we already discussed our personnel negotiations. That we only had one item. Finally, our May meetings. I will send out a communication to the board about finance on what works for the two of you currently on it, and then, but anyone else who wants to participate, that's fine. Policy, if we can meet before the next May meeting, just there are a few new policies that we need to update, so we can just have a first reading. And then CAC is the 27th this month.
All right. Any questions? Last minute comments? Have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Move to adjourn at 8:49.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.